Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well, and welcome to today's upload. I have some very terrifying experiences to share with you. I also have some video of a little adventure I took last night. I went up to where Tom Messick disappeared or went missing, the Brant Lake region of the Adirondacks. Pretty interesting stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute. Before we get into this upload, though, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. And folks, it definitely does matter. And I do appreciate it. Thank you. And with that being said, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's upload, shall we? Really quick before we jump into today's upload, I apologize right now for my throat and my voice. High pollen in upstate New York with the heat wave that we've had the last couple of weeks. And then I imagine with the tornado that ripped through, it probably stirred a lot of it up. We actually have high pollen warnings right now. So it's really kicking my throat's ass. And also, I'm kind of worn down, and so I do apologize. Now, I really want to start the day off with the video of the little adventure I went up to where Tom Messick went missing, Brant Lake, Adirondacks region, and I went at night. So I'm going to share that with you right now, and then we'll talk about a little bit of things that came up on my way home. Alright guys, like I said, I was coming here tonight. I'm going to flip the camera around and show you exactly what time it is, because it is 8 p.m. This is the trail that brings me to the strange tree structures and such. I at least want to get out here. Let me flip the camera around. Alright. It is 8 p.m. We are up in that region where the trees are knocked over or tilted over. A crow, a single crow. And we all know what that means in the supernatural, spiritual world, supposedly. I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't buy into and a lot of things I do. But here's where things get real creepy, right in this region. Alright, you've got that tree, which is bent over. We're not even close to where the bent trees are. Ooh. Dead silent. New York Adirondack hiking path. I always thought it was closer. Yeah, I'm gonna go to that region, and I'm not going any further. Last night in the live, people asked me what my view on Tom Messick disappearing was. I don't know. Hang on one second. I want to get my hiking stick out. All right, so yeah, a lot of people asked what my view on Tom and his disappearance. Do I think it is cryptid related? I used to. I really used to. It is a hell of a lot more eerie out here at night. I mean, it's 8:05 now. So here we go. This is as far as I go on Lily Pond Trail, but there's the angled branches, kind of like a gateway pattern. There's the trees that are tilted right there. I don't know. It's just really a strange place right here. And right up there is where those rock structures are. But you can see how the trees are tilted. That bends right there. Might be natural, might not be. I'm not sure. I know this is always a place that has just kind of freaked me out a little bit. Dead silent. All right, so I'm gonna go back and then we're gonna go up the Boulder Trail. So yeah, what do I think? What happened to Tom? Well, sometime during that day, he had been sitting out here having people push deer in towards him and sitting on a boulder. Sometime during that period, he had one communication with a family member, and after that, the time was established when they were going to end the hike, and he was never heard or seen from again. So this right here is actually right on these rocks right here is where I blew the shofar on the night of the eclipse, or day of the eclipse. $8:10 now. A lone airplane, that crow every once in a while. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna, when we come out, we'll get to the parking area. Then I will take a minute. I got some hot tea in the car. Take a couple chugs. Go up the wash to where the boulders are, come back down, and then I will wow, that plane's loud. Then I will blow the shofar. So hopefully we don't have a mishap like last time. This is roughly around the same time I was here. It was a little darker, I think because there had been a storm. Did rain a little bit. Not really rain, but like a summer storm, I guess. All you can hear is that lone plane. Whatever. The Oz effect doesn't really bother me, and that is the silence, the Oz effect. That is the scientific name for it, which I don't know exactly why it is called that. I will, when I get home, talk about it, I guess. Look into it a little ways, but yeah, so. All right, we're almost to the parking area. Take a minute here, and then I'll see ya. So the night that I was here and I blew the shofar and everything got weird, this is the boulder that I had it on. As you can see, parking area completely empty. Completely empty. And it was that way that this light illuminated, and I immediately stopped what I was doing. So we're gonna jump over to the wash trail and see what we can find. All right, so we are on the wash. This is obviously where I caught the metallic noises and something pushed out from behind me. I had trail cam set up here. That plane is still circling, I don't know why. It's really weird because it's 8:15 right now. But I'll flip the camera around. All right, so this is the wash. Up there is where the boulders are that I was sitting. Over that way is where the metallic noise was. I don't know if I want to go up here too much, but I said I would do it, and I'm gonna do it. The weirdest point or part about this whole thing is not that I'm afraid I'm going to see something, but it's the fact that someone disappeared here. Someone was never found. He went missing. Like, he didn't disappear, he went missing. There's a big difference in my eyes. Whew. Never found. Not an article of his clothing. Nothing. Okay. Well, fuck it. That's where the rocks are. Right there. This is where the boulders are. Right here. Ow. Alright, so those are the boulders. Something came smashing through there while I was sitting right there. It's muggy out. Whoa. Looked like something was up behind that big old boulder up there, but probably my eyes playing tricks on me. Alright, so I don't think that cryptid involvement, if there was some sort of outside involvement, I think portal was something very nasty that came out of it, and or God, I hate saying it, but UAP. But look how dense this is. Alright. I did promise Belle that I would not be up here long. So, I guess what I'll do is I'll get set up down there, blow the shofar, and see what we can get. But that's where whatever, when I was sitting on those two boulders there, something came from that way and went right up into that way, up by that big boulder, between those two boulders and that boulder, and it ran up over that hill, which I caught the audio of. I did not, and I wish I had caught the video. I mean, there is video, but it's just the audio, and that way would be the metallic noises. So what we'll do is we'll go down this wash. It's like a river when the snow melts. We'll come down here. We'll go down and set up this, blow the shofar. And like I said, I promised Belle I would not be up here long. One, because it's gonna be probably 9:30 by the time I get home. She doesn't like being home alone, especially in our house. I've caught in some strange stuff there. If you've seen the video on the channel, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, all right. Let's get the shofar out and set up. I'm sweating like a stuck pig right now. I wonder why they say stuck pig, because pigs don't sweat. You know? That's weird, right? But yeah, so when I get home, I'll add some experiences to this, and hopefully, I don't know, hopefully we get a response or something strange. I don't know. Either way, I'm happy that I came here. I like coming here. I don't know why. All right. Oh, here. I want to show you the external light that I have so you guys can see kind of how bright it is. Watch this. There. I mean, it illuminates pretty good. So, and it is 8:25. I've been here for 25 minutes. All right, let's get the shofar set up. I hear the mosquitoes. They're out hardcore, plus I'm sweating, so. All right, let's get out of here, get the shofar set up. Okay, so you guys can see the light difference. This is Lily Pond Trail, the first trail that we went down. We're gonna blow our shofar out this way. I'm gonna set it up on that boulder back where I showed you, but it is 8:35 right now. Been here for 35 minutes. Not much of anything compared to the last time I was here, when I was standing approximately right here and I was facing that trail going down, and all of a sudden I heard what sounded to be like a bipedal, something bipedal. But I mean, it's getting darker. Kind of want to wait 5 more minutes, maybe 10 more minutes till dusk or complete whatever, but I don't know. We'll get set up and we'll figure it out from there. But yeah, just so you guys can see. And it is 8:35. All right, so 5 minutes passed. It's a little darker. There's the trail. I'm gonna stand behind the boulder and blow the shofar. Maybe I'll blow the shofar. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll stand this way and blow the shofar so you guys can see and hear it. We're gonna do 3 in honor or whatever of the Trinity. And this is per Tim Coonbo Baker, who he told me about this. He was told about this from someone else. Apparently it has worked for both of them. I believe it has worked for me while I was up here and out toward that way the day of the eclipse. So let's see what we get. Nothing. We'll try it one more time. Here we go. That's just me turning. Maybe we'll go up by the wash and try it once there. Whoa. I think that was just a shadow of something. Let's try it up by the wash real quick. Alright, when I said I was gonna go up to the wash, I'm in my car right now. There was a noise that was toward the wash. I'm gonna see if I can put my high beams on. Of course they don't go up that trail. It sounded like something was, I don't know, trying to mimic the shofar, and I really wish I caught it, but I dropped my camera, and a portion of my screen is cracked. I don't think you guys can see that crack, but that really pisses me off because that's going to be goddamn expensive to fix. I think I'm going to put my AC on quick and let's see. I'll get out of the car in a minute and blow the shofar. I need to cool off really quick. Hang on. Whatever the sound was, it was from that way. I'm actually going to sit in the car and do it. I don't care. No one's here with me. And it is 9 o'clock right now. So let's see if we get a response. It's going to be loud. I apologize, guys. You might want to turn it down for a second. Is that something? I'm gonna call it a wrap. We'll talk when we get to my house. All right. So what you don't see at the end is, and I'm really kind of upset about it, is I blew the shofar twice, and then I made the statement, let's go over to where the wash is. And I had hit pause and proceeded to walk. I actually stopped and got a drink of hot tea that was in my car. And as I had opened the door of my car, there was a mimicked sound of the shofar. But it wasn't, it was almost as all 6 of the 6 times that I blew it were in one kind of mimic. So instead of like a, it was like that. Very strange. It freaked me out, and I ended up jumping into my car. I dropped my camera, and I cracked the upper part of my lens. I really don't know what it was. It sounded remotely close to the night of the eclipse, or the day of the eclipse, when whatever that was responded back and proceeded to go further away from me. But still different. And I got to thinking about that on my way home, about mimics. And I really am now under the opinion that whatever helped Tom Messick disappear, or whatever took him, or whatever was the cause of his disappearance, was created by the government. I think the metallic noise that I heard was either a portal opening or a metal door opening. There is rumored to be 11 underground silos and like 1 or 2, maybe even more, underground kind of bases in upstate New York. From what Phil Schneider, Bill Cooper, Tom Castiello tell us about Dulce and the level called Nightmare Hall, there are creatures that are large, hairy, violent. There are other creatures that resemble the crawler. And they mimic things that they hear. Voices, I don't know, but what Schneider and Costello tell us is like a baby crying, a woman screaming. So if it's capable of mimicking that, then it's not really hard for it to mimic a shofar or any kind of bellow. I really am upset with myself because, you know, I just went to get a sip of hot tea because of my throat. And sure enough, as I hit pause, and weirdly enough, when I picked my camera up off the ground, it caught a photo of my face. And I'm not going to share it because it's kind of embarrassing, but I am literally like looking around. You can tell that whatever just happened freaked me out. It's pretty funny looking, but I really honestly don't, and I haven't for a long time. You know, David Paulides brought us the missing 411, and because of his work, we are all, the majority of the country is aware of these cases. Hell, the majority of the world knows about these missing 411s. So he, at one point, pondered the idea and kicked around the idea of UFO, UAP, alien, cryptids, Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever cryptid falls in, you know, whatever creature you consider a cryptid could fall into that category. The government, portals, and I really am now, and I've considered that myself. Like, I, for a long time, thought that maybe why people missed evidence of Tom in that 5 square mile radius that was searched, if they looked up instead of on the ground, that maybe they would find something. Maybe they could find his hat, his body, his gun, something. I just don't know anymore. I really think the government is behind it. I think he was a casualty of the government and alien agenda. I think a lot of missing people that go missing, I honestly am at that point where I do believe with almost 90% of my belief that the missing people that go missing in the national forests or wooded areas have something to do with the treaty signed between the Draco and the One World Government, NWO, whatever you want to call them, where our governments gave them permission to experiment on us like we are cattle. Thank you. Appreciate that. Look at Alaska. Look at in the region of, what is it? So I stopped really quick because I wanted to make sure that I got the right number. At one point it was 16,000 people, but now it's over 20,000 people that have gone missing in the Alaska Triangle, which is like from Juneau to Anchorage to Utqiagvik, however you say the word. I apologize if you're from Alaska and you live there. But I really honestly truly believe that those people are used as experimentation for the Draco or any other kind of alien species that live underground, or food for them. You know, it makes sense. It really does. And I think what happened is at one point, the government started to realize, like, oh shit. You know, when Politis brought that to everyone's attention, the government was probably like, what the hell did this guy just uncover? You know, we're going to have to, you know, figure other things out. Let's go up in Alaska. Nobody will mind that up there. And I guarantee that you talk to 10 people, 1 to 2 people will know about the Alaskan Triangle and the disappearances. 9 to 8 will not. It's a big ratio. And that's probably why it's going on there. Because the government got fed up with the major news media talking about the missing 411. I mean, David Politis really, truly did a great thing by bringing the 411 to everyone's attention. And I thank him. I truly, truly do. But just like he kicked around ideas of what was the cause. And I really now think that Tom Messick was a casualty of the One World Government, the Draco. It explains why his gun was not found. His hat, his walkie-talkie, whatever else he had with him was not found. Why? Because, well, they either send a creature out or a gray with these creatures to make sure there is no kind of clues left behind. In Alaska Triangle, there's very, very little clues left behind when these people go missing there. Same with Tom Messick. So my next adventure is probably going to be in a couple of weeks, and it will be a night adventure. I'll probably go up there hiking in the day, but I want to go back at night when the moon is still a little more, is coming back a little full, but it's a little cooler out. But I want to go later than 8 to 9. I want to go from like 9 to 10, 10 to 11. I will not go after midnight. I think if I do, I'm asking for bad things to happen. But, my trail cam picked up some weird things. My trail cam's motion activated 2 times. There was nothing on the screen. One of the times when there was nothing on the screen, it was fogged up like someone had been breathing on it. And then whatever haunches that was at the end. Could have been a deer. Could have been. I don't know. There's too many strange things happen up there. But I want to do a little darker of an adventure next time. So let's get into some encounters. Today's first encounter. I moved to Minnesota about 6 months ago. It's a pretty cold state. More or less, I love it here. It's very peaceful, and when it snows, it's very beautiful. However, my image of Minnesota was changed the other night. Myself, my mom, and my stepdad were all sitting down watching a movie in the living room. As the movie was about to end, we paused it because my mom wanted to go smoke, and I needed to use the restroom. Once I'm back from using the restroom, I go and sit down with my stepdad. A few seconds later, my mom opens the patio door and yells for us to get out there. We rush outside and she tells us that she started hearing the noise of something large walking in the snow. When she started to look around for where the noise was coming from, about 40 feet away was a white trailer. She said that when she looked over there, she saw something large with red eyes staring back at her. She said that it looked like a huge dog. At first, my stepdad said that it was probably a coyote. Then I started to think about how my mom heard a coyote walking in the snow 40 to 50 feet away. I realized that it had to have been something very large. I've always been one to believe in the paranormal. My mom, not much so. We look around for a bit longer and then we go back inside. A few hours later, I leave my room to go and grab a soda so I continue playing Halo. After the whole event, I've had this unshakable feeling, so I decide to just look outside and reassure myself that she was just seeing things. As my eyes scan the edge of the woods, I don't really see anything. I take a deep breath and I grab the soda and close the fridge. As I close the door, I glimpse out the window and freeze. And sure enough, I see a pair of red eyes peering at me through the trees. I couldn't see much because of how dark it was. It was around 3 a.m. But I know what I saw. I saw something that I have never seen before. And those red eyes just went right through me. Then as quickly as it had seen it, it quickly disappeared. I have no idea what I saw. Today's second encounter. To start, I just want to say that I live in a fairly large trailer park in the middle of a town with my boyfriend. Like, the park is connected to the second busiest road in town. It's not super run down or anything. Plants, trees, families, gardens, etc. Kind of like a small trailer suburb. It's also connected to an actual suburb as well. It's not uncommon for people to be outside of their homes in the late evening either, as a lot of people living here are kind of youngish, 20s to 30s. We are 19 and 20. He has had many experiences at his mom's old house that was very clearly haunted, and I've only had a handful of possible ones, and one that me and my best friend could not dispute any other way, both witnessing, me and him. On this night, my boyfriend and I, let's call him D, not because of the obvious joke, had been sitting on the couch in the living room watching TV late with it being the weekend. I'd fallen asleep around 10:30, as I normally do on a Friday night after a long work week. He's a bit better at staying up and does so. The portion only with him is his recount, to the best of my relay abilities. Fast forward between 11 and 11:30, D began to hear weird bumping noises under the house. Not too abnormal, as cats are bad in the neighborhood, and sometimes cause this. But he thought it was weird because it was louder and almost sounded like a large dog fighting something. At around 11:30, he decided to figure out what was going on as the noise had progressively gotten louder. He tells me he's going outside, half asleep, but did not wake up, and I do not remember this, though I partially woke up when he closed the door. D went outside with his phone's flashlight on and grabbed a large shovel from the side porch and slowly walked around the opposite side of the house where he knew there was an opening close to where the sound had come from. We have a staircase back there from the back door that is about 4.5 feet tall, including the railing. When he rounded the corner, all he saw was a very large black dog sliding, almost like an army crawl, out from underneath the house, and sits haunched over itself. Even so, it's slightly taller than the staircase. D drops the shovel as soon as he sees it, like that, and its eyes flash in the light. He couldn't make out a lot of detail, but it was somewhat shaped like a huge Great Dane, shaggy, matted, mangy fur, and it looked muscular, but mildly undernourished. D then, in his thick big brain moment, yells at the creature, "Get!" and it runs behind the house. He then runs inside. I'm awake fully from his footsteps on the porch and slamming the front door. He then grabs a headlamp and the largest butcher knife we have. I started getting up and attempting to put my shoes on as he went back out, only to find our locked shed with both doors wide open, and the lock was gone. During this time, hearing an elderly woman yelling in the distance, so he also was going to get me in case someone needed help, and tries to go back in to get an extra lock. I met him at the door with the extra lock as I saw the shed open from the window. Upon going out together, we smell skunk, remember that for later, and go around the house where we realize he missed a chunk of wood from the shed door, bottom corner, and 10 feet away. We searched the shed only to find nothing missing and nothing extra inside, and noticed that it was dead quiet, no crickets or anything. We search around the area, and the weirdest thing we find in the openings pushed through are skirting, and come around to see 3 different people walking their dogs on the road in different areas. We live on a little offshoot that can see multiple roads. We go back to the porch only to no longer smell the skunk, and went inside with no other instance of this. I will mention we also smelled rotten eggs throughout the day randomly for a couple of times at the time without being able to find the source. I've heard scratching underneath our house the next day, but nothing has since happened. I'm not sure exactly what it was we saw, but I am just thankful that it never came back. Today's third encounter. It was the winter of 2001 in rural Georgia, around 1 in the morning. Yeah, you guessed it. Nothing but trees and fields with a scattering of houses every couple of miles. The only source of light was a trace of the full moon settled behind some clouds and leafless boughs. It had been a little bit warmer than usual during the daytime, creating a perfect atmosphere of fog at night. The day had been tiring. I was a senior in high school at the time, and with that came to the normal stresses that everyone knows too well. On top of that, I also play basketball, thus the reason for such a late night driving in what most people would consider the middle of nowhere. We had lost yet another game, but everyone was still in high spirits because of the Christmas vacation coming soon, and always had fun coming back from away games, no matter if we won or lost. The ride from the game was no issue. It was late, yeah, but the ride had no issues. There are always stories of deer running in front of vehicles during the late night to early morning during the fall and winter. It happens, and it happened to me personally a year or so prior. So I would and still do constantly look around to the sides of the road, even if I'm not driving. No, the real experience starts when I was driving home from school after the bus dropped us off. After saying goodbye and getting home safe to everyone on the team, I loaded myself and my gym bag into my rodeo and started taking the half-hour drive home. As I stated before, there is nothing but rural southern roads, long stretches of nothing but woods and farmland as far as the eye can see. It was one of these long stretches of woods that I saw it, and even after over 20 years, I still remember every single second of the encounter, and every time I come back home to my parents' house, I will still look for it in the same area I spotted it. I was halfway to the house listening to music. I don't recall what exactly I was listening to. Probably either Creed or something like that. What I do remember is the cold wind whippering through my hair as I drove down this darkened two-lane country road. I always rode with the windows down and the AC running when it was late during the wintertime. The cold breeze that both created as I sped down the road always kept me awake when I had a long day behind me. I wasn't speeding, maybe 40 miles an hour down this lonely road, just enough to create a cold breeze. I needed to help keep myself awake. Suddenly, the fog started growing thicker, causing me to slow down. As a few people can imagine, the road, like this one I was driving down, is not very wide. There are no shoulders to the roads, and there are no streetlights. So a sudden push of fog all around made it much harder to see any animal that could run out from off the side of the road. The ditches on either side of the road are deep on this particular stretch. There is a creek that runs through the woods there, and it passes through a culvert under the road. I felt something was off, like something was about to happen, which caused me to slow down even more, and I rolled up my window as I strained to see the foggy darkness. I slammed on the brakes, nearly causing my manual shift SUV to shut down because my foot slipped off the clutch. When I see a blur to my right, running right into the road in front of me. The animal was black against the whitish-gray fog that has now become much thicker, and to my surprise, it looked like a huge, and I mean huge, black wolf. Side note, Georgia is home to different large predators, black bear, alligator, coyote, and, though the Georgia DNR vehemently denies, mountain lions. I have personally been stalked while driving slowly on an ATV by this creature, and I have to roll my eyes at the DNR statement that people have misidentified bobcat for a mountain lion. I grew up in the woods and know the difference between the two. I also know that we have gray wolves and red wolves in Georgia, and have seen one in the fields around town a while back. They are bigger than coyote, and definitely bigger than dogs, But this huge black wolf I stared at, stood in front of me, was even bigger than the biggest gray wolf. I continued to stare out in front of me, trying to figure out what it was that I was seeing. I knew it was a wolf, but I could not wrap my head around the size of it, nor could I figure out why it was just standing there. I didn't want to move. It just did not feel right to startle this creature that was just sitting there staring at me. I thought maybe it was stunned by my high beams of the headlights, so I flicked the brights off to hopefully allow it to go on its way. Big mistake. As soon as I lessened the brights of my headlight, this creature turned toward the car and stared directly at me. I froze as I made eye contact with this creature, hoping that it was just my tired brain making me think that the look in its eyes were more intelligent than a regular canine. It wasn't long until my curiosity turned to horror as I noticed that while I was watching it, this creature now was standing on its back legs. That's when I finally noticed that it had hands. Yeah, it had hands, large, somewhat human-like hands. Long, gnarled fingers that end with razor-sharp claws. I continue to stare into the beast's eyes in what I find was a relatively safe vehicle until it reached its full height. Until I was relatively safe in the vehicle until it reached its full height. I knew what I had seen previously was a large wolf. It must have mutated or shifted or something because this thing was well over 7 feet tall. During this time, my mind tried to rationalize what I was seeing, but it failed miserably. I froze behind the steering wheel of my car as I took in sight this creature before me. Before this, I had never believed in fanciful tales of Bigfoot, alien, and of course werewolves and ghosts. Yeah, I'm a southerner, though, through and through. Though I have been hiking or living in Though I've been living and hiking in the northern U.S. for over 17 years now. The South is a plethora of ghost stories, and I have had my few and my own. While my mind is trying to wrap itself around what I am seeing, I had failed to notice right away that I had taken a couple steps toward my car. When this finally registered, I gasped slightly as I took in the full profile of this monster. Before me, I had merely seen the side view of this creature. Now, however, I could see it in full horror. The chest of this thing was more like that of a human male who has been training for a bodybuilding contest. At the bottom half was more decidedly wolf-like, save for the extremely large claws and paws that reminded me more of a Wile E. Coyote from Looney Tunes, but more frightful, obviously. Like if Guillermo del Toro had created him. I stare in abject horror for what feels like forever as it continues to stare at me with hateful hunger in its eyes. Suddenly its gaze shifted from me to the woods on the opposite side of the road, hopefully prey that was easier to get to. My mind begged as I continued to watch through the windshield. I breathed a sigh of relief when I saw it run across the road into the woods. After that, my mind kicked into high gear, and I had to floor it before this thing decided to come back, nearly stripping the gears as I fumbled with the gear shift to get away as fast as I could. Once I felt I was considerable distance from this creature, I slowed back down to the speed that was nowhere near reckless. During this time, I glanced down at the clock in the car to see the time because I felt that I had spent so much time staring at the creature that my parents were surely going to be upset that I had not come home in the time frame that it should have taken me to get home from the school parking lot. Only a couple of minutes had passed. Surely it had to be much longer. I thought to myself as I tried to remember what song that played on the CD in my car and what song was now playing. None of it made any sense despite the air conditioning blasting through the vents on a chilly December night. I was sweating, and yet chills were running down my spine. I made it to the three-way stop between several fields and took a moment to try and collect myself. Sure, every part of me was screaming, "Get home ASAP," before it decides to try its luck with me again, but my mind still went through the motions. This four-way stop has had several bad accidents in the past. Teens deciding the desolate road made for a perfect drag strip, and also the occasional drunk who didn't believe in stop signs. I take several seconds before crossing, so I know I slowly traversed the sun. Before I slowly traversed the turn. The reason why I paused these times is because people keep walking by, yelling, and 2 motorcycles went by, and I am, once again, completely drawn out, just beat. Nothing happened as I made my way safely home. In the back of my mind, however, my imagination came up with all sorts of frightful images that awaited me when I stepped out of my car. These thoughts were unwarranted as I rushed from my car into the light of the carport. I quickly glanced about my darkened woods that surrounds my house as I fumbled with my keys. It took several calming breaths to allow myself to get the key into the lock before finally allow myself entrance. My parents were asleep, so I was lucky that I did not have to explain why I was so frazzled. They would never believe me anyway. I never again saw this monster. I never wanted to see it again, but a part of me wanted to know more, and if anyone else had seen anything like that. I never mentioned it to anyone, though, and this happened during the time where a lot of people in the rural areas of the South did not have internet. We were lucky we had dial-up, but I did not know how to search the internet back then, and only used the computer to play games like solitaire and write school papers. It wasn't until I was a lot older when I finally looked into what this creature could have been, and sure enough, people from around the world has been seeing something similar. Back then, I always suspected that it was a were-like creature, but my rational mind never accepted the creature of folklore. Today, I understand that every folklore has a basis of truth. So, werewolf or dogman, they most definitely are real. Thank you for allowing me to share. And tonight's final experience, this one I shared during the live stream. When I was 9 or 10 years old, my uncle told me an experience that has stuck with me ever since. Growing up in Kentucky, I've always heard tales of, Bigfoot, the Pope-lick goat man, the usual run-of-the-mill urban legend campfire stories. But in this case of the experience my uncle had told me, it was different from all the other tall tales I have heard before or since. Kentucky is home to the world's largest cave system, the Mammoth Cave, since its founding in July 1st, 1941. Only about 365 miles have been surveyed by the human eye. It is believed that there is still 600 miles of passageways and caverns yet to be discovered. A national park is stretched over 3 counties, spanning more than 50 acres, Edmonson, Hart, and Barron counties. My uncle owned land in Edmonton since the early 80s. I remember hearing how, when they were out hunting for deer, he would occasionally come across pits in the ground of various sizes. They were the mouths of the cave, or entrances. They would usually just toss a barrel or a large tree branch in the hole so no one would stumble in and become trapped. Besides wildlife or just getting lost in the woods, there really wasn't much for you to worry about, according to most people. This experience took place early in the 90s, about 5 years after my uncle had purchased the land. His closest neighbor, we'll call him Ken, lived about a half a mile down the dirt road that ran parallel to both of their properties. He naturally became a good friend over the period of time and occasionally would accompany each other hunting. My uncle lived in Louisville and would visit his property when he had his days off or needed to do some upkeep like mowing and restocking the pond. So unlike his neighbor Ken, he spent most of his year in Louisville. On this particular weekend, Ken went out hunting for deer. He left his cabin and headed out into the woods, as he had done so many times before. He followed the path that he had used to be there plenty of times to a small grouping of trees, overlooking a large meadow. According to him, it was a perfect sunny day, not many clouds in the sky. He sat in the shadows underneath some low-hanging branches, feeling hidden from any would-be prey that might come out. Despite it being ideal weather for hunting, he didn't see much in terms of game. Just a few fawn and a doe, not that big trophy buck he was hoping for. He had been entertaining the idea of just grabbing his gear and heading back to the cabin. Not wanting to go home empty-handed, he decided to stick around a little bit longer in hopes that his luck would change. His chest fluttered when he looked across the meadow to the left and saw movement in the tree line opposite of him. He pulled his rifle to his shoulder and looked down the scope. The thick trees and foliage at the edge of the tree line prevented him from getting a good view. He had just to be patient. When it stepped out of the shadows of the trees about 50 yards away into the clearing, he knew almost immediately that what he was seeing was definitely not a deer, definitely not something he'd ever seen before. He tried to keep his hands from shaking his rifle as he desperately tried to identify exactly what he was looking at. He described its body as that of a panther, but the upper torso, where the shoulders and neck were, sat noticeably higher than the lower back and hind legs. He looked at its side profile, which he claimed, while in mid-stride, this thing was close to 7 feet long. He said it was quiet like a cat. It never made a noise when it moved. The front legs, he said, looked more like arms, significantly longer and skinnier than the hind. It had legs, he said, looked more like arms. The front legs moved like arms. Sorry, guys. It had brittle, dark brown fur and was starting from the back of its head, running down the length of its back, like a hyena. He also claimed that the creature's skin looked waxy, almost like a chimpanzee, dark brown, almost black. Its face, long like a dog, but he said it had no ears. He said the corners of its mouth ended by its neck, where the ears should be. The most unsettling detail I remember of his account was the thing's back legs. He described them as being frog-like, as its back legs were tucked up close to the creature's sides, and when it walked, the leading leg would reach almost to the front half of its body, and the other would stretch way back, flat when it crawled. He watched it for 2 or 3 minutes, slowly and quietly moving through the long grass. A black shadow surrounded by color. He watched it disappear into the tree line, directly across the woods. He saw it coming initially. After a few moments, he left and headed back to the cabin. Now, I don't know how long after this incident occurred before Ken told my uncle about it, but he was reluctant to speak about it. He actually dubbed it the Kentucky Howler Crawler. Eventually, Ken explained the whole story one night while sitting around the fire with my uncle. Ever since then, Ken refused to go into the woods. He claimed to only hunt from dirt roads while running through his property afterward. Both my uncle and Ken have sadly passed since, but their story has never changed over the years. I even had my uncle retell me the story several years back just so I had it and had all the details right. Maybe this was just another tall tale used to scare me and my brother when we were kids, camping at my uncle's land, but I know one thing for sure. He was an honest man, and his eyes told the truth when he wanted to tell me experience. He had this fair share of unexplainable instances, and I'm sure anybody would after frequenting the cabin in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky. Anyway, The thing that keeps me up at night, though, isn't the thought of the creature, it's the thought of where it came from. Who's to say this thing didn't crawl up from those caves spanning hundreds of miles in every direction, hidden from civilization, thriving off the ecosystem. Alright guys, that was today's upload. I'd really like to thank you all for supporting the channel. Once again, I am so sorry for my throat and just being completely drained and dragged out. Thank you for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go. And honestly, what gives people a chance and a place to share their experiences and theories judgment-free, just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Everyone, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real, they are out there, and they are dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.